are and whatever you're doing, it's it's a beautiful time for Christmas. It's only 80 degrees and it's above the North Pole. So, hope it snows, hope it snows, hope it snows. Yes, it's warm, toasty, whatever you want to call it. It's not your usual Christmas. But hey, that's all right because give it 2 days, it's going to be 3 degrees below zero and a foot of snow. So I'm just happy it's toasty and warm. And welcome to Dreamy Dreamland with your Sensie Owl Bob. This guy right here, this griot here to tell you a story. And so what memories do you have of Christmas? You know, my dad was Italian. That's Italian. He's the Italian stallion. And my mom was Irish German and little Mohawk. And she was like a cross between Princess Ticklefeather, Marilyn Monroe, and Adolf Hitler. And my parents made a wild, crazy combo. They were married for 78 years. And 28 of those years, I took care of them. Otherwise, I was having my own good time. I always remember that family. And if I have any gift, any great kind of thing, is to be in the right place, the right time, know it, and step into it. Right? Not go, oh, I don't know if I should do this. So, and not have any expectations of a specific outcome. Right? Oh, I need it to be this way or that way. No. I just embrace it. It's like in acts, where they go on and on about what you should do or shouldn't do, how you should act, basically. Basically, how you should act is like treat your brother as you would want to be treated. Never have any false gods, meaning there's only one God. That's love's co-creation, right? And when you think that car is all you want, when you think that house, that money, that prestige, that status, those are all the sin. When you turn your back on God, right? So we look around us and we see all these wars, and that's, what is that? That's all these people who want whatever somebody else has, and they just want to take it, right? Then you have the wars like the one in Ukraine. That's like a kind of theatrical, soap opera, right? And both of it's the war of the two Vlads, and they're both, one's a stand-up comedian, and the other one's a bagman, Putin is a bagman, right? He was always a bagman. He was a, Russian Secret Service kind of guy, but he was a bagman. That's all he did, right? He delivered money, he delivered stuff, he did that. When Soviet went down and the drunk took over, and it was too much for him, so Putin stepped in. And he delivered, after the drunk crashed everything into oblivion, where the Russian people couldn't even find something to eat. Yeah, there I am. And hi, how you doing? Hope you're doing great. So what are you doing, right? I'm telling a story about where we are today. And we're at a place where the powers that shouldn't be, the hidden hand, whatever you want to call them, Hail Hydra, the Illuminati, any of that stuff, basically, God does everything, right? He puts, he created the devil, right? Why did he create the devil? The devil doing bad stuff? No, we do bad stuff. The devil tempts us. It's like when Donald Duck is there and he's got the angel on one shoulder and the devil on the other, right? You got a choice. You can do either. It's a lot better, a lot easier, a lot safer to be your best angel and not your worst devil. You're never going to get over. You're never going to get happy by screwing with people and taking care, we're all cheeky monkeys at a time, and that's okay as long as you're not hurting anybody, and basically whatever cheekiness you're doing is you're doing it to kind of define, show, be an example to, hey, look what's going on, and what does that mean, right? So, anyway, so that's the story, Morning Glory, in a wild crocodile. I'm here in Germany, right? Can't you see that German architecture behind me? Near Dusseldorf, yeah, making apple pies for the crowd. So let's hear some of your stories, you know? Yeah. Dude, oh, he's just honking his horn. He's got his new vehicle for Christmas. Do 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 do. You know, you go on YouTube and everyone's talking about this and talking smack about that. Let's hear some fun stories. You know, let's hear what you got. I've been doing this now. Here it is. How many minutes? 6 minutes and 8 seconds. And if somebody doesn't jump in and say, hey, here's a good story. What do you think of this story? But it is quite warm. It's quite nice. I decided to come out here and take a little jaunt in Dusseldorf. Let it blow, let it blow, let it blow. So when things get quiet, that's when things get rowdy and dangerous. So, you know, Putin launched 600 drones and missiles at Ukraine and blew up a couple of apartment blocks, and 3 or 4 people died and 20 people were hurt. I mean, this war is going to end with basically the same lines that were before the war started. You know, the Donbass up there, that little slip that the Russians had, everyone will agree that that will be under Russia's auspices, but it's still part of Ukraine. Ukraine will not join NATO, but it doesn't have to. It's now shown itself to be the baddest ass in Europe. And they will make a fortune selling their hardware to the Europeans. And that's what it was before, because UN and NATO rules basically state that no country can become part of NATO unless, you know, when they're at war with somebody else, right? So they, you know, Ukraine has been at war with Russia since 2011, 2008, right? So there's no way that they're going to become part of that, right? Now, Ukraine just got a nice, big, happy loan, which they don't have to pay back, of about $180 billion. And that's so Europe doesn't have to fight Russia. But Europe will be able to exercise their prerogatives in Ukraine in understanding how war is fought. Meaning they're going to be able to try out all their weapons on Russia. And they have been for now the last 2 years. And seeing the strategies and all of that, how that works. And Ukraine will sell that for the $180 billion that they borrowed, that they don't have to pay back. See how this works out? And so what did Russia get for this? It you know, destroyed its infrastructure itself, it did. It has taken any kind of goodwill that the public of Russia had for Putin. He's not long for this scene. And probably big chunks of Russia will be annexed by China, you know, Mongolia, that whole neck of the woods, because it used to be part of China, and those people are Chinese, and they used to get paid off by Putin. Now, so they've fed up. And there are all the stands, those folks are also fed up. And they're more like Turkish than they are Russian. So they too are going, and they're already doing, blowing things up in their country that are Russian, right? So that's, the revolution has already started in Russia. The only thing that Putin can do is nuke Europe, United States, and other places. Because Russia has put, just like they had in Cuba, short-range intermediate missiles, and Venezuela with nuclear weapons. And they have this, I forgot what it's called, but they have a intermediate range that can hit the United States within 5 minutes of launch, and it's MIRV, meaning multiple reentry vehicles, right? So they all have hydrogen bombs. So they got about 40 of those in Venezuela. That's 40 times 5. What is that? 200 targets that they can blow up in the United States and Europe too, if they want. If they were to, because these are bombs that are, maybe 100 times stronger than the Hiroshima bomb. They are kind of neutron bombs. So the radiation isn't quite, it's really not that bad. The destruction, the heat, the shockwave, nasty, one of those MIRV warheads hitting New York would take, using Empire State Building as ground zero, would take a circumference of 100 miles, right? So anyway, that's what Russia could do, because they're already toast. So if they're in an attitude like, let's take these mothers, we're already toast, so let's take them with us, right? Well, there are elements within the hidden hand that wants to do that, want to get rid of 3 to 4 billion people, right? Get the population down to something that they can work with, right? So, and make it into the Federation, And everyone will have their own little box. They'll have a little replicator over there where they can get a pizza or Jordan sneakers or whatever they want. And that will be the new order. Because we're already out there. And we're already, the Nazis have been out in space since the 1890s, or somebody, somebody was out there, right? And the Nazis kind of joined the club, a little bit before World War I, a little after. There are all kinds of great books that are written about this, that are written by scholars, not academics, written by scholars, itinerant scholars, and not, conspiracy theorists, right? So go read that. A good guy to read is like if you want a starter, a primer, before you really, go down the rabbit hole, is David Icke. He's a good starter. And so is a Texan boy who died 10 years ago. And he wrote some of the most definitive books on the alien intervention and also political assassinations. He was a political journalist for the Dallas whatever, right? So anyway, that's, what's his name? He always wore a cowboy hat, had a white beard, kind of looked like me, kind of. Anyway. So nobody saying anything. There's 2 people there. 1 thumbs up. Thank you very much. Now remember, go tell people to watch the show. Go tell them to subscribe. Let's get, back in between August, September, I had a week where I was living in the deep green. I walked to my neighbor, and it was good. I had to really use my bum leg. My bum leg is better than it was in April. Right? I don't have the scorching pain. I don't have the, my leg isn't like going 40 degrees the other way. not having any of the things. I mean, it's still messed up, that's for sure, but it's getting better. Praise Jesus, praise God, and bless the holy roller skate. Yes, I. So anyway, AI is still watching. There's 2 thumbs up. Um, I'm gonna. So go watch my other shows. I got close to 3,000. Just kind of go to shows and like go like this. They're all lined up in a straight line. Whoop, and they'll go boo, 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 boo. Hello from Florida. And Merry Christmas. Ooh, yeah. Oh, I spent many, many good years in Florida. I had a house in Stewart, and I had a fishing cabin on in the Keys on mile marker 46 or 7 or something like that. And that was fun times. Oh, and I was living in Fort Lauderdale in a sunken yacht. You know, the 2 floors below the engine room and where the crew was, that was underwater. But the main deck, not the main deck, but the place where the rich people slept, they're like nice little staterooms, big things, bigger than any room I have. And then it had the whatever, Lido deck, Then on top of it was where you were kind of, 10 or 20 feet above the water, and it had jacuzzi up front and had bar, and you could sit in the back and have the servants peel grapes for you. Then they had the top where the captain was, and they had other things up there that you could play around with. Hey, it's Santa. No, I am Santa's younger brother, Bob Claus. I take care of the naughty and nice list, right? And I know about all of you who's been naughty and who's been nice. Space Coast, right. Stewart is kind of below. It's more like in the south. And I also had friends in Hollywood and Fort Lauderdale and Miami over in the hood, the Spanish part. Anyway, what else can I say? Scooby-Doo, boop, boop, boo. Melbourne. I lived in Melbourne. I loved the trolleys in Melbourne, right? I lived, I forget what neck of the woods, but I lived in the semi-burbs of, it was still Melbourne City, but not downtown. And if you're a Melbourneite, my really good friend in Australia was a guy named Neil Curtis. And he wrote a book called Bear Dinkum. And he was a newspaper political comic strip guy. He was like the Gary Trudeau of Australia. And I met him in New York City when I was building Xenons for the mob, for Bobby Bentnose and Tony Two Toes. And they wouldn't let me out of the place except to have breakfast. We would go down to the Mobster All-In place that was right next to, on 8th Avenue, the bus terminal. And so you went past the fruit stand, and in the back was like, whoa, this big, unbelievable scene. Did you ever see the movie Goodfellas? And the guy who's, giving the story, telling the story first person, he basically takes the Jewish girl, right, who he marries, picks her up and takes her out and takes her into this place that I used to go have breakfast all the time. And like Tony Bennett was saying, he walks through the kitchen and through a hallway and down the steps and out into this big space where looks like a warehouse, but it's all the tables have nice tablecloths by Mike Finelli, and they put Henry is his name, put the table down, plugged the light in, put the napkins down, pulled two nice chairs, and is sitting right there, and Tony Bennett's singing to them, right? So that is, I don't know if it still is, but that was the all-in mobster hangout downtown, Midtown. Let's see, King of this earth, a.k.a. Mayor Baba. Yep. The joke's on us. Yeah, that's true. So, the Christ head is not an individual ego, right? It is a sense ability of all one of us, and a covenant, the Ark of the Covenant, right? And the covenant is love's unconditional surrender, right? And that's Mayor Obama. So it's Buddha, it's Jesus, it's a whole bunch of folk. It's all the same guy, or girl, or tree, or donut. Yes, I'm in a yacht club. Yeah, in Dusseldorf, up in the mountains, and the rich are so rich, they fly their gigantic yachts from the Mediterranean using anti-gravity and placing them in Dusseldorf, right? So, anyway, but it is toasty warm here. I mean, it's pushing 70. Tomorrow's Christmas, right? So I wanted to come out and I have to jump on this guy's Wi-Fi. It's a restaurant, so my bud. And this guy was really great last Saturday, I guess it was. He sent out 1,000 people, not 1,000, 1,000 pizzas to 1,000 homeless people around here. I told him about the plight, and that's what he did. Jesus is king. Yep. Anti-gravity rules, right? So remember those days back in the 50s when they saw the flying saucers as big cigars? Those were U.S. and Nazi submarines. They had a lot of them at the end of the war. They had a lot of them. What are you going to do with them? You stick a little suitcase-sized device on, 4 ends of the submarine, and bingo, there you got a cigar-shaped thing that can fly faster than anything, go into space. Hey, it's great in space. The guys in there, I mean, the thing is designed to be able to take pressures under the sea. The pressures, it's a vacuum. There's hardly any pressure, right? There's no air, but hey, they had the same issue going underwater. So those submarines were just right for that. Yep, boats, U-boats, you got it. And like I said, the Nazis have been out in space since the 30s. The moon is a artificial design, like good old George Lucas got the Death Star from Joseph Campbell, and Lucas sat at the foot of Campbell for a whole freaking year and just took notes. And that was, the story of the Jedi, right? I'm sure there's loads of stuff out there in the YouTube world and whatever internet thing you look at will give you that story. And Joseph Campbell, he was my mentor. He was the person, how I tell stories. My grandma told stories, but the way Joseph told stories was I just sat there like a little kid at his feet listening to him. Me and my friend, we were working at the Library of Congress and Smithsonian one summer, and because we were, itinerant scholars, not road scholars, but we weren't working for Cecil. But we would work for anybody who paid us and gave us opportunity to see and do and learn things above most people's, pay scale. So I remember my friend said, "Hey, let's go, good old Joseph Campbell is lecturing, he's teaching at Georgetown. Let's go listen to them. So we did. We went into the lecture thing. There was, 100 people in there. We just kind of sat down, was quiet, listened, and took notes. And then we went back the next time, and the next time. And then he said, okay, I want everyone to write, on this subject about what I've been telling you. So I could go look to stuff. So we had more access than those kids had. We had the Library of Congress. We had, the Smithsonian. So we went and wrote a paper together, my buddy and I, and turned it into him, right? And so he got it. And then, a couple more lectures, then he gave another sign, and we wrote another paper. Third time was the charm. He said, okay, everyone got their paper back, but there's two guys, I think they're guys anyway, I want to see you guys after class. You know who you are. And so everyone shuffled out. We stayed there. Nobody else was there but us. Joseph came. So, you guys are writing this stuff. Who are you guys? And we told him our story. And he said, well, you're my new Padawans. You're my new students. Let's see. Over 100 cargo-carrying U-boats went missing. Yeah, in Antarctica. Yep. And those were the big ones. And those were the ones that worked on hydrogen peroxide. I mean, you don't need a nuclear reactor to be able to stay under the sea forever. They had submarines that ran on hydrogen peroxide. Very, very interesting stuff. It's using that as a mediator. It is, the key component of cold fusion. Plus, it makes hydrogen and it makes oxygen and drinkable water, right? Without all of that ridiculous heat. Because if you have a nuclear-powered submarine, right, and you're hiding, right, and you have this reactor that's basically chock full of plutonium. I mean, it burns like, and so you got 8,200 degrees water that you're making steam, which you only need 600 degrees. What are you going to do with all that hot water? You're going to shoot it out the side of the boat. Now, you're hiding in the North Pole or the South Pole, and all you have to be discovered is have a satellite with an infrared detector going over the North and South Pole. And if you had a reactor on board a submarine underwater, you would stick out like a thumb. So it's obvious that when they say nuclear submarines, they're not talking about that's what's running them. What they are talking about is that on these submarines, they have, water-based ICBMs, missiles that don't have liquid engines but have solid fuels that can be launched from under the water surface, just right, and that they're merged, so they can shoot and go way up into space and then head towards its target, and then the bus opens up and the merge kind of are independently. They can shoot all over the place, so it's hard to shoot those suckers down because the missile, when it's launched, you can figure out its trajectory, right? It's going to go, it's doing this, you know where it's going to go, but once it gets up here, the top comes off, and the bus, it drops the individual reentry vehicles in any direction it wants to put them, and they can move around. They can go all over the place. And it creates oxygen. Yep. So I'm in an undisclosed part of Germany. I mean, can't you tell by the architecture? Look at that. Very German-esque. There's 3 people watching. Anyway, so there between August and September, I'd walk up to my neighbor in the deep green, their deck, and jump on their Wi-Fi and talk to you guys. And 1 week, I started out, and Monday, after I closed up the show, I said, my God, I had 1,000 people watch that show, right? And then Tuesday, I had 2,500 people watch that show. Wednesday, I had 3,800 people. Thursday, I had 5,000 people watching. Friday, I had almost 8,000 people watching, right? And then on Saturday, I got an email saying, "Oh, isn't that great? We think you're the best. We want to back you. We want to, moderate you or mediate you or whatever that term is. And we will guarantee you will go viral. You will be famous. You will be rich." Well, I've been rich before, and I've been famous, and I've been infamous, and I've been you name it. And I'm very happy where I'm at serving God. Very happy, right? Can I ask what happened between you and John B? Well, nothing. It's the same story. John B is stuck in a he hasn't changed from the first time I met him. He's all about John B. He's not about anything but John B. He wants to be rich, famous, good looking, A-lister, blah, 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 right? Why did his wife drop him like a hot potato? Because she's the same way. They had kids, and so John is unbelievably talented. He really is talented. Me, I have a bunch of skill sets, right? And my one great talent, which is pretty good talent, is to be in the right place at the right time and lean into it, right? So John's scared of everything. He's scared of living, scared of dying, scared of all. He threw me out of the school. I stayed with John for 17 months, just so he was an amazing lab rat. I mean, just a character actor that just comes around once in an eon, right? So I just there, right? And kind of put up with his annoyance because it was just chaff, right? It was no big deal. Yeah, exactly. Good luck with that. So, what was amazing, John threw me out of the school 32 times over those 17 months. So really, maybe I spent 4 months with him. I mean, he gave up. When we started off, we were like, Jerry Lewis and Bing Crosby. It's like we had a chemistry. We still do. I still call him up a couple of times, but or he, says just the most disgusting, unbelievable stuff about stuff that it's just unfreaking believable. So, and what's really it is, like I said, John Boy is the canary in the social, cultural, spiritual coal mine of human race, right? That's a hard place to be. And he is Donald Duck with the angel on one side, and he's never really leans into the angel side. I mean, he feels guilty, he feels stupid, he feels like, oh, I'm going to go to hell, the lake of fire, blah, 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 blah. And then goes, praise God, praise Jesus, praise God, praise Jesus, praise God. Like on, right? Now, it's great to say praise God, praise Jesus, because, that's the only thing there is. Yeah. I mean, like I said, he's my friend, and I don't give up on my friends. But you have to be a stupid moron to constantly be abused by him. So I learned, I had 32 times was enough. But every time he threw me out, and he would throw me out in the middle of snowstorms, at the middle of night, when I still had, I couldn't see, and the driveway down is like death, and then you hit the road there, and it's like a skateboard. And so he would, I don't care, get out. I said, John, can't we wait 2 hours when the sun comes? Get out. Right? But after the second time of him doing that, I knew that God always had my back. It was an amazing experience that 32 times be protected, lifted up. It's like God picked my car up and took it down the road. I couldn't even see anything. It was no lights, dark, snowing, sleet, ice everywhere. 32 different times. 32 times. And then I would get down, and as soon as I got down to a safe spot, there was this one place I knew I would pull into, turn up the engine, turn up the car, go to sleep, wake up an hour later when the sun hit me in the face, and things started to melt, and I could get on my way. And and normally I had maybe like $5 in my pocket, but one time I went downtown, and there's this place in Roanoke called the Texas Tavern. It's a hot dog stand that hasn't closed since 1928. I mean, 24/7, 365, it's open, right? And, late at night, that's where the extraterrestrials go. So I went down there, and I camped out there for a couple of days, and then this Yahoo, one of the usual suspects, dropped by, and he's a guy, he's like, a grifter. The politics in Roanoke is grifting. There are all these, you name it, there's entities like, TAP and HAT and Goodwill, and there are grifters, the mission. They collect millions of dollars for the poor, and it gives them to themselves. Like Goodwill, they raise millions, right? And so they get all these homeless people, all these people on drugs and alcohol, and they train them, right? My legs were in clamps. I could barely walk, and I helped this Goodwill like 10 years earlier write grants and get people real jobs. And when I showed up just to see how they would treat me, I went in there and said, hey, I want to, go through your process. And they said, well, they hand me this big thing, fill this out. I said, I can't, I'm blind, I can't see. And by, HRS 649-13, that you get billions of dollars of money from the federal government, you have to help me fill this form out. If you don't, I will take that as cognitive that you are lying, cheating, and stealing, and I will go to the federal auspices in that federal building across the street and tell them exactly what has occurred, and then they will come and sue you for every nickel you have. Okay, we'll help you. And anyway, so that's a grift, right? So I'm in the hot dog stand, and it's, where you been? I said, right here at the hot dog stand. What are you doing here? Living here at the hot dog stand. What about the school? I don't know, it's a whole nother story. Oh, I need you. I said, what do you need me for? You just grift. You got your little 501c3. You're supposed to be teaching bourgeois college students about, what it is to be poor, and you get Habitat, give you an abandoned building. You have the college kids do the demo. You don't give them hard hats or goggles or masks or gloves, and they get typhoid and they get, exposed to asbestos and get cancer. And you don't care. You're getting $300 for each kid for 2 days of them doing that. And probably they won't get typhoid, and they probably won't get, AIDS, or they probably won't get cancer. But, you don't care. No. I'm going to be a minister at a church. And I said, what? What are you talking about? You don't know. You have never read the Bible. Well, that's why I need you. I need you for, I need you. I said, okay, take me. So it was this amazing church right in the middle of town. It was right between Oakey's funeral home, Red Cross over here, the federal building behind it, the city hall, and the courthouse, and the police department, all right like within 100 yards of this church. And beautiful church, just built like in the 1830s, mahogany and oak, and just big, beautiful stained glass windows, and a pipe organ, and a sanctuary could sit 400 people, and downstairs they had a gigantic community room that you could feed 500 people every 2 hours. Gigantic kitchen. Back it had a school, had classrooms, and none of this has been used since the 50s, right? So I go, and then I said, can I stay here? He said, well, yes, you go up in the bell tower and stay up there, and here's the key for the back door, and you're going to be my assistant, and you gotta wait, you gotta leave at 6 and wait till the ladies and everyone leaves, and then come in and then go up to the bell tower. And then you gotta leave by 6 because they come in at 7. So they have to see you coming in after they come in. So went up to the bell tower. It's great. It was the warmest place. All the heat in this building was going straight up in the bell tower. It's the middle of winter. Great. And John kind of just threw me out without a care in the world. You know, where are you going to go? What are you going? No, not at all. But 32 times I had, so that, over a 4 month period, that was like maybe February when he threw me out. And so March, April, May, June, July, end of June, basically, it fell apart. But I had that restaurant going. I found these two Jamaican grandmas. We were making $1,500 a day. And they wanted to have a restaurant. They couldn't. They had to get permits and this and that and pay tax and blah, blah, blah. I said, this is a church, nonprofit. We're not going to ask for people to buy the food. We're going to ask them to donate for the food. So we had every kind of person there. And it was downstairs called the No Fear Cafe. And I was the garçon, and I would seat like a judge, lawyers, electrician, a couple of cops, 10 homeless. They had these gigantic tables that like 15 people could sit comfortably around in a circle, right? And I had about 10 of those. So you could have quite a few people there at a sitting. And I would walk around with a joint compound bucket with dollar signs on it saying donations, right? And half the people had no money at all, so they didn't have to donate anything. No problem, we'll feed you. But there were judges, lawyers, rich people who would come because the food was amazing. And I said, oh, how about a donation, Judge? And he'd take out his wallet, and I said, open up your wallet, Judge. And I said, how about all of that? Well, that's like 6 Benjamins. I said, yeah, come on, throw it in. So we made at least $1,500 every day. And I only took 400 for running the place, or to the church. Like 200 went to the church, the other 200 went to the food service guy who brought in the fish and the chicken and that kind of stuff. But we had a lot of stuff in our I started a food pantry. So we had a lot of canned food. But the guy brought in meats, cheese, oils, and vegetables. And these grandmas turned out the best food. And I said, listen, girls, save every nickel I give you, right? Put it in buy yourself a safe, put it someplace where no one can rob it, because, your granddaughter's boyfriends are just forget about it. So do that. And I tell you, within the 3 or 4 months of us doing this, maybe 5 months at the longest, the old folk who are on the board will get tired of this because, they had nobody in the church but like them. The place was made for 300 and, they had 4 people in there on the board. That was it. That's why they got the grifter. He was good looking. He looked good on paper, and so I've done, foreign ministry. Yeah, like so no one could check up, And I have this nonprofit that I help the poor. And, So anyway, we were doing all of that, and I got, there were a lot of people who needed a church, but they were poor. They were black. They were Hispanic. They were white. They were gay. They were handicapped, So by the end of the first month, we had 300 people, and they could sing, and they had people who could play that organ. So every service was, and the guy, the grifter, he couldn't do it. He couldn't get up there and talk about Jesus. So there were lots of people who were in the poor, who were touched by Jesus. They were touched by Mayor Baba. So I would have them. Not all the. We had this thing called the council. And it was the longhouse. It was kind of a takeoff of the Iroquois Nation's longhouse, and the Gaelic Council, Grandma's Council. So that was the spiritual motif of it. And I called John every so often and say, hey, John, why don't you come on down? There are a lot of nice people. Oh, look, they're black. Oh, my God, they're blah, blah, blah. Oh, that's John. That was John the first day I met him. That's John today. If I could, I'd call John up right now so you could hear him, but my phone doesn't. You don't have enough memory. It barely lets me do anything. Yep. Love of God, the gift. Yep. And that's the best time you can have is when you are having a good time with God, right? So I've been doing that since I was born, you know. Most of my brothers and sisters can't even remember anything before they were a teenager, right? They don't remember their early childhood. I remember everything. Still sounds that way. Yep. So, John's my friend. I call him up. I give him a pep talk every time. And every time I said, John, you're amazing. You have all the talent in the world. You got this great. He has the best internet. I mean, he has he could do anything. He could teach up there. He could make a lot of money. He doesn't have to live on. He doesn't have to. Mommy and Daddy give him $1,000 a week, give or take. I mean, I don't know how much, but he hasn't paid a bill ever. So, and there is something worthwhile about paying your own way. Meaning, when my parents died in '08, my mom died first, and then my dad died 6 months later. But when my mom died, it was like Princess Bride and Magic Max. She died, one night. So she's drifting away over a 3-month period. And she has spikes of like her feistiness, and then but she stays up during the night and plays cards with a lady who takes care of her and bakes cookies, and then sleeps all day long. And my father, oh, get up, let's go, anyway. So you could tell she was heading for the drain. And one night, the lady comes in and goes, she said, Mr. Abbott, wake up. She called me Mr. Abbott. Mr. Abbott, wake up. And I said, yes, what's up? And her name was Timothy. My father had real problems calling her Timothy because she's a woman. He just had a problem. I would say you're right. They do pay his bills because he doesn't drive. He doesn't leave. So he doesn't do stupid shit that, affects them, So they make sure he gets food. They go and visit him every now and then. And he does what he does. Insulates him from the public. And the more he's insulated from the public, there is nobody up there. So that place is unbelievably high energy spirituality. And if you're not, connected to God's unconditional love, you're connected to Satan. So everybody, they got, the 2 Russians who built that place found that spot. And, after, running away from the Nazis and the commies and you name it, they finally got themselves there. And, bought, was 200 acres, and it's a beautiful spot, especially back in the 50s when they bought it. And they had old homestead, and they fixed that up. And then they started building little cabins where people could stay, and, they would rent it out. And that was their means of making money. And they made art, and they sold the art. The guy was really good at selling art in the 50s and 60s and 70s in that kind of kitschy, Andy Warhol kind, not Andy Warhol, but a kitschy kind of, he found his kitsch. Being alone is very detrimental. Now, being in seclusion is not being alone, because when you're in seclusion, you're not around human beings, but you're there with God. You're there with the bunnies. You're connecting to the higher powers, right, of creation. And then you still have the opportunity to, go out and hang with people, So that's what I've always had. I'm a person who enjoys his own company, not a problem, right? I read, I write, I make things, but I'm always involved with people. This message held for review. Anyway, so that was Johnny. So, I mean, I just had, like I said, 32 extravagant, amazing, and God did it all. I would just, and John did it every time, threw me out in the worst of the weather, the worst of the times. It's cold, it's hurricanes. It was unbelievable. Just, he didn't care. He didn't care for anyone. Doesn't care for his children, doesn't care for his family, doesn't care for God, doesn't care for anybody. That's a sad place. Yes, exactly. Independent, solitary person, but I like to be social, very much so. I like people's company. And I don't care, they don't have to be any specific kind of, everybody is somebody who I can hang out with, no problemo, right? And people really like that, meaning, even if we don't like you, and then, and I go, well, that's nice. What do you mean that's nice? I said, well, that's nice. That's your opinion. That's, you're missing out here. But that doesn't mean I don't like you. I like you. What? And then they try to be more stinky, poopy kind of person, and then they break loose. Oh, wow. Look, they hug me and start kissing me. Oh, I've never known. I'm so lonely. You know, say live and say live and let live. That's me, right? But I always know my 20 and my 360. When I see that moron, coming in my direction, and I can see energetically they're not up to any good, I don't need to interact with that person. No. Maybe when they get rid of the AR and the Molotov cocktail, yeah, maybe I'll talk to them. But otherwise, I'll go over there where they can't find me. That is the intelligent way to be, right? Not judge anyone, but you can have a perspective where you don't want to get hurt. So I would not hang out with John Birmingham any more ever again, unless he changes 180%, right? Just becomes his better self. Till he does that, I'll call him up on the phone and say, how you doing, buddy? And talk to him. But I won't physically go up there because it would be putting my persona in violent potential danger. So anyway, that place up there is so spiritually charged that everyone up there, unless they are connected to God's unconditional love, they go nuts. And I've seen it. I bought that place. So here it is, 20. I bought it in 03-ish, right? So 20 plus years ago. And more or less, it was my school and it was my warehouse because I had, had a house in Lynchburg. I had 2 buildings in Bedford. I had buildings in Florida. I had 10 buildings in Vinton and some buildings in Blacksburg and some buildings in Floyd, Virginia. That's kind of, I don't know what it's now. But when I died in 14, I liquidated everything I had. You name it, whatever wealth I had, I liquidated it, and I had a number of nonprofits that I had started and got going and kind of didn't walk away, but I put them in the hands of other people. And they're still there. They're still doing their thing. And if you want to have something really work well, it's like Collab in New York City, Collaborative Artist Projects. We started that in 1973 or 4 or 5, and we had 2 places, in Lower East Side. We had a place called, what was it called? No Say No, and the other place was, I forgot what it was called. But we had a TV show called Potato Wolf. And we were the progenitors of things like Franklin Furnace, the Knitting Factory, PS1, lots of shows. We did a lot of shows. Basically, we had the auspices. We were collaborative artist projects. That was the whole idea. We would be the backbone to give people who wanted to have an art, culture, social entity, but didn't know how to do it or didn't have the money to do it, and we would be the umbrella. That was like our 501c3. And once they got up, we got them to take care of it, right? And that's why New York is what it's now. That's why Asheville, North Carolina is what it is now. Right? Now, Roanoke, Virginia could have been that. I tried doing that there a lot, but there's something weird about Roanoke, Virginia that things happen, things are groovy, it really works, and then it stops for no reason at all. Right? Yeah. No, I didn't sell it, I sold it to John, but John's dad, it was in John's name, and but John's dad paid for it, and then John went through lots of money, so and he put it on a credit card, so John's daddy paid that off and took that building and put it in his own little portfolio, so John couldn't, get it taken away. So they give John an allowance. I don't know any of this. This is just what I am assuming went down. But yes, but that was, 20 years ago. Gotcha, right. So it's, it's like everything else. Things work out or they don't, Like I said, I have this, blessed skill to be in the right place at the right time. Like when I bought the place, I bought these other buildings that I sold. And one of them I gave away to a church because they were great. And they had no place to do their thing. And the town they were in had no food, but they were great cooks. I kind of revolve around food. Food's a great organizing mechanism. So anyway, I sold I bought these two buildings for $15,000. And one was before Virginia's gaga for history. One was built before the Revolutionary War, the other before the Civil War. And so they had and they were in pretty good shape, and they had been kind of taken care of. And the guy, his daddy and his family owned it. They all died. He was the last one standing. He couldn't stand living there, so he needed X amount of money. I had it. Bing, bang, boom, got it. I tried. He turned me on to Virginia, which is gaga for history, and they had a thing that the state of Virginia was going to pay for renovation of the whole building 100%. I got to own it. I got a tax write-off for it, and the mothers, in the town of Bedford, Virginia, the old farts, the rubber tex folk. Well, you can't do that. We know what you're doing. So, couldn't do it. So I said, fine. And boy, the people in the state government and the state historians, they were apoplectic. And so that was like 30 years ago. So since then, they've done everything to screw those people via the state. It's like, really? Because if they had let me do what I wanted to do, they would have gotten lots of money from the state. It's like, I couldn't believe it. But I didn't care. See, that was the other thing. The other guy, the state guy, the historian, he was like jumping up and down. And I said, well, relax, don't worry about it. And so he went, and so what did I do, right? The building they were both downtown, but one had been a general store. I had a big window. Right? So I took construction paper and put it around the windows, right? So people could look in there, but they couldn't see anything from 4 feet down to the floor, right? So I moved myself in, and I had a bed there, and I had living room furniture and a nice Persian rug. I mean, it was a 6,000 square foot, storefront, right? And it had a beautiful back out onto this parking lot. Had a great southern, the double decker decks. Anyway, so I basically lived in there for the first 6 months I was there, because I was there for other reasons. I was being paid because the Devil's Highway, which is really, it goes from Asheville, 26 to 40, and then 40 into 81, and then up 81 into 66, where it goes into D.C. That's Devil's Highway. There are more satanic murders and body dismemberments than you can shake a stick at. And it's a drug deal gone wrong, And I worked for this entity, the Tavistock Institute. And they had a offshoot called the BBI that looked at things that went bump in the night. And so that's why I was there. But I did a lot of work for people like them, looking at stuff. But I'm an electrician, so I would go get a gig being an electrician in the area they wanted me to look at. And that was the greatest front, Who's that guy over there? Oh, that's the electrician, Anyway, so it's great. I was getting a nice check from those guys. I got a really great electrician's job and was saving that guy's butt. So he paid me whatever I wanted, because he got all these big jobs and he got way over his head. It was getting to the point where he was about to eat a gun or something. And I said, no, let me help you. And I did. Turned it all the way around for him. So he had 3 sons. They were all chuckleheads. He said, this is Al. He's going to tell you what to do. But my name's on the truck. I said, not for long, buddy. You keep doing what you're doing. Anyway, so that's how I got to know Jerry Falwell and got, owned buildings all over Virginia, because I got there just at the perfect time where everything was cheap. It was after the 86 collapse. It never came back. I was just right there. How much you want for these 2 buildings? $15,000 for 2 20,000 square foot buildings? What? In Lynchburg, right on Main Street, there's a building. You want what? You want $7,000 for a 20,000 square foot factory right under the bridge next to the GE building? Really? Sure. Here it is. So anyway, when I left that neck of the woods, I basically sold everything and did well. So I was going to have to pay a lot of tax. So that's why I bought the school from Inga, because her kids were not taking care of her. She was, not really feeling too good. So I took care of her, right? I drive around in her little Subaru that still works. Those Subarus are unbelievable. And so I gave her $125 grand. The county said that that property that school was on and the building was worth $30,000. I gave her $125,000 because I said, well, she'll probably live another 10 years. If I give her $125,000, that's exactly how much money I have to buy another piece of property, not to have to pay tax on all this other stuff I just sold. And she'll live on it, and that'll make me happy, and I'll be right here with her. And that I don't need another building, but I'm trading in 6 buildings for one, and when John came along, I wanted to sell it. He bought it for exactly what I paid for it. Couldn't have been better, right? So now I had a friend who was from Sweden, and he sent a buddy of his to visit me. And this guy was like an Olympic skier. And he said the hill that my property was on was perfect for skiing. And he said, if you go from one corner straight this way, that's 1 mile of skiing. And he said, it's like perfect. You got, it snowed one time, and he had his skis with him. And he said, this is amazing. This would make a great ski chalet. Like Airbnb ski, where you have one of those rope tows that pulls you up the hill, and then you ski down, and there was a road that went all the way to Floyd, 60 miles, and it went up the sides of mountains. And it was a road that really, no, it wasn't really, it used to be the old road to go to like the west, the Chisholm Trail. And, people could have like gone cross country for miles. So he said, this is a gold mine here. I said, good, buy it from me. Turn it into, you're the guy who knows how to do it. Do it. And he couldn't quite get it together. And then about 3 months later, Johnny Boy shows up. And I said, great, let's do it. And we did it. And Inga's kids, it's like really people are really, it's like my brothers and sisters, except for one of my sisters. They have no idea what I've ever did, because I didn't work for everyone in my family worked for my dad. I'm the only guy who didn't. Well, you made your choices. Right? So they couldn't believe that I had all this stuff. You don't own this stuff. I said, well, who owns this building I'm living in? Who owns, I would take them, like when I was in Lynchburg, I took my sister and her husband. They came to visit, and I'm living in this factory. And they're like, wow. And it was truly amazing because it was right under, not 29, but the other bridge that kind of goes into 460. Anyway, or 29, I forget which one was which. But anyway, it was just before Jerry, just sucked up Lynchburg. And so I had this building, and it was right on the main drag. And so the front of the building kind of peaked its edifice out onto the main drag, but it was under this bridge. And it was almost a 20-acre footprint, right? And it went up to the railroad tracks and the James River, and it had a gigantic parking lot that you could build other stuff in, and it went down a hill. So from the bridge up there to the parking lot was like maybe 30 feet, so you could have built 3 stories stuff. You could have done a lot of stuff with that. And so I bought it for nothing, and I sold it for like 4 times what I bought it for, right? And the other properties too. It's like, and I gave 2 of the properties to this black church that didn't have a church. And so, I just liquidated everything. And then I got this life, right? And so that's why I spent 17 months with John Boy, because, I had my little deep green because I got rid of everything else, but I hadn't quite figured it all out yet. And John was just there. And he was great. I hadn't really done anything on the internet, like YouTube, all that. And so we were doing it. It was quite interesting. And we were doing it and getting great response. And in a lot of ways, John has a sexual attraction to me, right? Now, this is just, I have no idea. You never told me this, but this is just my perception of Johnny Boy close up. But, like I said, he's my friend. I care about him. I want the best for him, right? But after 17 months of trying to do it, Freud said, if you do the same thing over and over and over again, expect a different outcome, what that means is you're nuts. So I'm not nuts. So after 17 tries, or 32 tries, really, he threw me out 32 times. But by the 3rd one, I said, this is like a magic stone. Every time he throws me out, I have a great, amazing adventure, right? So, and I had 32 great, amazing adventures, right? And I helped a lot of people, and it was just the best. God kept putting me in the place I needed to be for, God wanting me to do stuff. So I did. I didn't go, oh, no, I wasn't going to be like Noah. No. Who's the guy who was in the swallowed by the whale? Is it Noah? No, I forgot. Anyway, I know it wasn't Moses. Moses went against all those guys. David, Moses, Joseph was he never went against God, what God wanted. He just got the short end of the stick all the time. But at the very end, once he becomes a great hero, he realizes that he would never have been able to do all the stuff he did unless his brothers threw him down in a well, who tried to kill him, sold him as a slave, went to prison, helped everyone in the prison. They all got out. He said, oh, tell the king about it. They forgot to do that. You need advice on something. Well, here you are. Uh, go for it. So even being in John's toxicity was never really toxic to me because I never took it personal. I could always see it coming, and I always got out of the way. But John was a great gift in that he was the most amazing lab rat. And I didn't even have to put him in the experiment. He kept doing it himself. He was like, that's why I called him the perfect saint of suffering, you know, canary in the cultural coal mine. So what's the question that you need advice? Jonah, thank you. Jonah the whale. Yep, Jonah. Yep, Jonah. See, my eyes are getting better. You guys aren't even printing it large, and if I get that sweet spot, just not too close, not too far, I can read it. So how many, we've been doing this now, 70 minutes, 52 seconds. So go ahead, hopefully, ask me the question. 4:38, it's getting dark. I got maybe 20 more minutes. How much battery do I have left? Oh, I got maybe. So if you got any questions, you better ask them quick because I'm about to wrap things up here. The Master. What are you talking about? Doctor Who? The Master? That guy? No problem. Always good with the backstory. That's why I'm a good, hobbyist historian. We hobbyist historians are good on the backstory. Oh, there's 4 people here. 2 thumbs up. Praise Jesus. Anyway, I'm having fun. It's still freaking warm here. It's probably above 60. Easy. Boop, 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 boop. So, unless you come up with a question, I'm going do 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 do. Okay? Okay. Let's see, what is it? 72. So when it hits 73:33, if no one asks a question, I am closing down the show for today. It was a nice show. It was a great show. Good conversation. That's what I like. That's what makes it work good. Here we are, 73:05. No question. You did your job, kids. And your griot did his best. Here we go, getting close. Okay. 26, 27, 30, 1, 2, 3s across the board.